to share my screen, get it underway, and we'll see how these two tools kind of differ from each other. I'm going to start first, though, with a comparison chart that I generated on a completely different version, which is Claude. Claude's telling me the pricing here. So a lot of the ChatGPT doesn't quote Australian dollars. They just it moves a lot with whether the currency changes are. So you got a free tier, you got a budget tier. They call it their $8 a month tier, which is mainly sort of put towards the users in India, which is their main market for the budget tier. But it comes out to about $13 a month. It has very limited access to things. Like, you're not going to be able to generate a lot of videos and images on there, but you do get a fair bit of extra use opposed to what you get on the free version. Then you got those mid tiers, which is where a lot of people are, the pro tiers or the plus tiers, are like $35 or $33 a month, roughly. And then you got the power tiers, so $300 a month upwards. So I've done that before on ChatGPT. I'm currently doing a $150 a month version on Claude, but I'm really down on the regular sort of power tier, the mid tier for Google Gemini as well. And I very rarely ever hit any limitations, except when I'm doing a lot of coding, all in one go. For enterprises, all very custom as it normally would be, and teams have got different setups as well if you're using it for a team. When you look at the free tier features, there's not. The problem with Gemini, it doesn't actually give you a lot of published limits. They change quite a lot. You get about 10 messages, backwards and forwards for 5 hours before they throttle you back from the pro version to the non-pro version on ChatGPT, so the most latest version of ChatGPT. You get the same on Gemini, the free version. You do get quite a bit of usage on their fast version, which is the default version you get. If you try to go pro, you're only going to get a certain amount of messages, and they don't really tell you how many that is. It does vary, but it's not a lot. So you get maybe 5 to 10 different messages in pro before it kicks you back onto the free fast version, which, my goodness, is well and truly good enough to do most of the things that we do on all these AI tools. Image generation is a bit limited between the two. It's generally accepted that the Gemini version of image editing, which is Nano Banana Pro, is far superior to the GPT one. But ChatGPT does do good images as well, and it's a lot faster than it used to be. Both of them are running a lot faster. Your video generation is extremely limited. You're only getting 50 credits a month on the free one through Gemini, and just very limited. Like, you probably generate one video in a month over on ChatGPT. So it's not really giving you much through Sora 2, whereas the video generation through VO 3, which is on Gemini, is going to give you a little bit more room to move on there. Both of them have voice access. Both of them have web browsers built in if you're doing some sort of codes and things like that. ChatGPT has started rolling out ads in their results, only in the US, so that hasn't happened in Australia yet, but it will come. Gemini's not, but being Google, I'm sure at some point they have to throw some ads in there. Storage-wise, you're getting a certain amount of storage for free through Gemini, 15 gigabytes of Google Drive storage, but no storage available for ChatGPT. On our budget tiers, you start to see, what those differences become. What is really important to look for in these is this thing called context window. Now, what that means to anybody is, not really much to most people. What it means is the amount of data it can actually work through on. So when you're working on something like that, it's like that 128,000 tokens is not actually true there. Like, it's actually 1 million tokens on the budget feature. So 1 million tokens is basically on the paid feature. This is the budget feature, 128,000. It's about the same on ChatGPT. This is like where you start loading up documents, and you want it to be able to work with those documents. It can only work with a certain length of documents. So 1 million tokens is going to cover you for more than the entire length of the War and Peace novel or the Bible or something like that. It's a lot of text you're playing with, right? 128,000 then becomes a lot shorter on that. So it becomes, not quite words, but short words, 128,000 short words. As we get to the mid tier, that does get higher. They haven't published what that is in ChatGPT, but it is 128,000. They haven't published it, but that's how much it actually is. In Google Gemini, it goes up to 1 million. So you've got about 1,500 pages worth of data can be handled. It also means in each chat you do, it's got a lot more memory you can work with. So that means you're able to then, keep going on the chat and it'll remember everything in the previous conversations you've had within that chat in Gemini. So this is all, you can go through all this sort of stuff. You can just Google this yourself, to be honest, because it'll show you all the differences between them all, and what you can and can't do with them. What you really need to do is kind of look in the tools themselves. So if we go to ChatGPT, you'll be familiar with this, the flashing cursor in the empty box. Your search is available. You can generate images over here, and you can look at images that have been generated before. So you can start to see, how that works, what images are being generated. This is a bunch of images I've generated, including ones of myself, doing all sorts of wonderful things in ChatGPT. I've used a few of those here and there, but not really a lot, because I found it just was all a little bit, I don't know, just strange. I just didn't find it great. But one image I did generate was this one here, which went on to become the Schnitty Benny that one of my cafes in Cairns now sells more of than anything else. So that's a pretty amazing feature there. So I was able to do that. This is the actual photo I use in that cafe, because it was a tradie cafe in an industrial area. That's actually a photo inside the cafe. And I've just added the two guys there and then the food as well. So does it look a little AI-ish? Yeah, it does look a little AI-ish, actually. So you might want to watch that. You might want to say, go, is it that great? Now, these are a while ago. It has since changed quite dramatically since then to a much better way of doing it. Your apps in ChatGPT, oh, it keeps opening new windows every time I click, but the new apps within window is like adding things like weather, Agent Force sales through Salesforce, Airtable, which is adding structured sort of database data through to ChatGPT. All the things that a lot of private companies have done it. If you're using things like Asana or ClickUp or HubSpot or any of those kind of things, it's linking it through. For instance, if you want to use Booking.com to compare hotel prices and flight prices and car hire prices in there as well, rather than just going through ChatGPT itself. Deep research is if you want to go very deep into your research. Some of us do that, not every one of us do, but that's a way you can sort of look at that too. And Codex is for those advanced coding kind of people who are trying to build apps, websites, all kinds of stuff like that. So that's really a look at ChatGPT itself. The comparison there with Gemini, this is what it looks like at the front. Now, I've got it set for dark mode, so I don't know why I do that. I got to set it to the system, and then it'll be light mode. So there's light mode, really similar. ChatGPT, Google Gemini. A little bit more color in there, a little bit more going on, but you got that same sidebar over there, in new chat. Something that's a bit different in here is schedule actions. So, for instance, in scheduled actions, we can go in and start to schedule different things. Catch me up on the news at 7 a.m. every morning. Send me some healthy dinner recipes every weekend at a certain time, that kind of thing. If you want a morning motivation, you can create any action there and schedule it. Now, you can also do that in ChatGPT. You just don't have a section called scheduled actions in ChatGPT. So what you're doing is not really, there's nothing there that tells you to go and schedule actions. You just do it in here by saying, remind me in 5 minutes to stand up at my desk. And what it'll do, it'll put a desktop notification will come up in front of you saying stand up at your desk. You can then schedule that for however you want. So it doesn't really require that. Gemini likes to separate that out and have specific scheduled actions. So they're really easy to find, and you can cancel those that you want to stop as well. Underneath these are things called gems. Now, if you've ever been in ChatGPT and used their GPTs or projects, this is what these are. So GPTs are pre-programmed sets of sequences that you can use to do specific things. You can explore other people's GPTs. You can see tons of those online. So we can go into a kind of a marketplace and see those on ChatGPT. And when it comes up here, just take a little while to do it. Take a sip of my coffee while we're waiting. There we go. And so we can look at, an Expedia one, a Canva one. There's lots of different ones, there's writing ones. So we can go in and see tons more writing ones, an AI humanizer, a fully SEO optimized article, grammar checking, novel writing, copywriter GPT, a lot of that kind of stuff that's being written by people. You can search for specific things. It could be education programs, people who are doing lessons like AI for medical students and Academic Assistant Pro, all those little bits and pieces that kind of add a little bit of fun to it. You do get very limited access on the free version of ChatGPT to all of these, and you don't get to make your own. So, and the free version, if you have a paid version, you do get access to build your own GPTs. That said, the same for projects. You don't get to do projects for free. And projects are very much the same kind of thing, but they're your own ones. So, for example, if I look at this one, which is my Clickstarter online guides, I've built this as a sequence, which if I go here and go to my project settings, there's a big sequence I've typed in of who it is, what the style guide is I'm playing with, and then all these instructions, the tag for my Google tag to go on each page, and then the sequence of how it works. Okay, when the user says this, start this process. And so it has got some limits. Like for instance, this only has a room for about, I think it's about 8,000 characters, something like that, which sometimes I have very long contexts that go much longer and go up to 15 20,000 like words of instructions are very complicated things. That one's not too bad, and the sequence will be to click start and it begins that sequence that actually says what's the first thing, what's the topic of this particular guide that you want to build. So what will be the name of the guide, and then I give it the name and it moves on and it collects all that information on the way. The difference in Gemini, they call them gems. So gems are the equivalent of that. It does both what projects do and it does what the GPTs do. So in here, for instance, I've got this Link Dish cartoons one. So this one is one that I preset. You'll see in here when I go edit, you'll see the instructions I've given to it. So this creates my, every couple of days I do a cartoon and I put it on LinkedIn. That's about the funny things that happen in offices and in LinkedIn pretty much. So in this, you'll see a great big long line of very specific things. So it has to follow it in order. It's told me what I am. I've loaded a photo of me in there. So if it decides to have me in the cartoon, it bases on the photo of me just down here. And then I've also said, this is the style of the cartoons. These are previous ones I've done. And this is the logo for the cartoon. So if I click on that, you see it's like a whole logo that I put in there as well, which I can edit and make changes to if I need to. Now, I can also do that in ChatGPT. It just doesn't do as well. Like I've tried it in there, I've tried it many times, and it just keeps dropping the instructions all the time. So what this gem does is basically the same thing. If I go to start it, here we go. Let's go click on that and it will start. And now I'll enter in my word start, which is what I always use to begin a sequence. And then it begins that sequence. It'll ask the same thing. I'll say, who are the people in this? Describe the 2 characters you'd like to feature in this comic. So that's then giving me, okay, now what I've got to do is describe them. So, Dante is wearing a suit and tie. Karen is wearing a corporate suit and skirt. So they're my 2 things. So I can go like that, and it will then ask me, okay, now we've identified who the people are. What is the dialogue you want to have between them? So what is the content? What's the dialogue? So I can go, Dante, hey, Karen, how is the project going? And then we can then go to the next one where Karen responds, great, almost finished. And then we continue on to the next panel. So what I've done is pre-programmed all these instructions in. So you can do this in ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, most of the AI tools that have things like projects or GPT kind of things, your own personal sequences. I can keep going with this if you like. We can make one. You can see how it works. But, the reply from Dante is going to be, what exactly is the project making? And then we can go, Karen is going to say, I have no idea. All I know is that It's for something big. Okay, that's panel 4. Now panel 5, Dante. One day we'll find out. And then panel 6, I'm going to go caption 6 months later. And I'm going to have something like, I don't know, a robot is waging war against humans in a post-apocalyptic nightmare scenario. So in other words, the apocalyptic is a harder word to spell in there than I think it is. I'm going to go pro on this to do the final bit, and I'm also going to tell it to create the image. So if we go there, I've got that all pre-programmed to say, okay, now create this based upon the cartoons that I've loaded up, the logo that I loaded up, and then to base the Dante character on me. So it looks like me, but a cartoon version. So this will come up any moment now. So you can, yes, I said do this. You can do this in ChatGPT as well through GPTs and projects. It's just with the following of instructions through persistent characters within things like cartoons or even paintings or drawing styles that you want to generate in here isn't quite as good in ChatGPT as what it is in Gemini. The most recent version that came out just this week allows you to have 14 persistent points of reference within any one image that you can take from one image to the next image. So let's say, for instance, it's a photo of yourself, you're wearing green glasses and you're wearing a pink dress. You can specify that this character, and it'll take 14 points of that character and continue them on to the next panel. So here's our little cartoon. Hey, Karen, how is project going? Great, almost finished. What exactly project making? I have no idea. Well, no, it's just something big. One day we'll find out. 6 months later, here we go. I'm actually going to use this probably on Saturday when the next cartoon comes up. So I can download that. That becomes my next cartoon. So that's how this kind of all works. It gives you this ability to be able to set different sequences to generate things. You still got to put your input in there. In my case, I've had to put in my input saying, here's the exact thing I want, the people that I want it to be between, and how I want the style to be. I've already programmed all that and then put in my instructions for what I want it to be. So it's my sense of humor. It's my sense of irony and all that sort of thing. It's just I can't draw to save my life and probably never will be able to. So and I don't particularly want to learn how to draw. That's someone else's skill that they can have. So that's the gems side of it. Now, gems don't have to be, image generating. Of course, you can also use, just like ChatGPT with its gems. I've got a lot of these writing GPTs. I've got one here, which is my Saturday Sprint, which is what I used to use to help me to write my Saturday email newsletter that goes out. So in this case, in the GPTs, you've got like these conversation starters. So you can click a start button and it starts that process. Over here at Gemini, we don't have that. So if I go to the similar thing, which I've put over here, which I think is Saturday Sprint here somewhere. There we go, this one here. So we've got the Saturday Sprint there. I've got the very same kind of idea, but what I do, I need to type start in there. So rather than having a button that says start. So that's how we make that work. What I generally do for things where I've got lots of instructions and I'm putting a lot of input in and I've got a lot of reference materials, I'll run the free version, this fast version down here. I won't change that. I don't need to, because it's not really drawing much, if anything, from the internet, and it's not having to do a lot of processing because I've given it a lot of the information. But when I get to the end product to output something, I usually change it over to Pro, because that way it's going to get the best possible one in there. So you notice I did that with the cartoon. I said, okay, up until the end, I was using fast. Then I changed it over to Pro. And that's when I also changed the tool over to create an image, just to say, I'm not just going to create text here. I want to create an image. That then brings me to, and this is an example of, the topic of the newsletter, all that sort of thing. So that brings me then to going back into the new chat. Let's do a brand new chat in ChatGPT. Over here, we can give it certain criteria. We can upload things into it. We can look at our company knowledge when we select it, when we're connected through to Google Drive or OneDrive, Dropbox, or whatever or Office 365, OneDrive, if you've got that as well. That's where you can draw on knowledge that you've already got within your company. Copilot's very good at this sort of thing, and this is ChatGPT's version of it. You can create an image, so we can do the same thing of creating those images, having sequences to create them. Deep research, just plain web search, or we can do things into like a study and learn mode, which I think is really great, and the agent mode. We're not covering agent mode here because I don't think agents are quite ready for a lot of release, but they can be very helpful for doing very intensive research and multi-step things, such as building things. Over on the side, we can create Canvas, which is for coding. Over on Gemini, we've got very similar tools. So we've got create image, the canvas, which is for coding, for making, that's what I use when I'm building those online guides that you can see over there, the Click Startup online guides over here. That uses the canvas. Deep research, just like ChatGPT. Then you've got create video and this new create music thing. So the create music thing is kind of fun because they're little 30-second clips, really. So we can do something like a K-pop version of something I can put some words in, a song about Australian foods. And so I'll just leave it on fast and I'll create a little song in a K-pop style that's predetermined. So it doesn't change it, but it just adds the words around a song to do with that sort of thing. It's a very gimmicky kind of thing. Claude avoids all this kind of thing. They don't do any of this kind of stuff. ChatGPT at the moment doesn't. There's tons of other tools that do that. You got Sonar, I think it's called, another one called Udio that do all this sort of thing. Suno and Udio already do these things and create all those sort of things. What this has done is create a little music video. So I've So it's done a little photo to go with it. It's like a Vegemite that looks like it's in a peanut butter jar. Lamingtons, I'm assuming a pavlova, which it seems to have got right in there. So it's got a few things in there. Look, it's just this little 30-second clip, and it won't create it any further. It's just really a preview version of that. So you're not going to really get that. So that's a bit of fun you can do. Again, not really that stuff you're going to do every day. What we might want to do is just do some guided learning, which is the same as ChatGPT over here, which is under study and learn. So the same study and learn things on ChatGPT, you'll then see in Google Gemini under guided learning. So if you want to learn about something, it will go and build a course for you. So all of those who are course creators, this is pretty much bringing down the house for you. Don't bet your farm on creating a course, because now you can just go in and do one of your own in any of these tools. So that's a little bit of a difference. Now, the quality of picture generation will depend very much on using things like the Pro version, changing over to create image. We'll do this over in ChatGPT as well, create an image. They've got styles in here, so cyberpunk, anime. I tend to be very much just doing photo shoot kind of stuff. So ultra realistic professional photo shoot with soft lighting of, and I'm going to load up a photo of me wearing a black t-shirt and smiling lightly. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to load in a photo of me that I've got prepared on my desktop, which is me here. And I'm going to do the same thing over on Gemini. So I'm going to I can pick a style or just load it up. So what I'll probably do is do not a self-portrait, not an oil painting. I'm thinking something like, I don't know what salon is, but I'm doing it. So I'm going to put in the same words, load up the same photo, and we'll see, who does a better job of doing that, because they're both going to be very good. It's just that sometimes you'll have a bit of a preference for that. So ChatGPT, let's do that. What I might do also is add a ratio in there. So I'm going to go ratio of 3 to 4. So I'm going to add that into both of them as well. Let that one go. Gemini. The ratios are like the shape of the photo. Just if I'm not a professional photographer by any way, shape, or form. Just I do often prefer things 3 to 4 is like the ratio that you get on something like LinkedIn or Instagram. That kind of thing fits perfectly in there. So this is now creating that photo as a photo shoot as a professional portrait of me. So a photo of me originally taken in a professional studio that I used AI to add these green glasses too. If you look in the little photo frame, so they're wearing those green glasses. So I changed over to that. It's taken the glasses off, which I did not ask it to do. I don't know. I'm looking a little bit younger, I think. So I'm not complaining about. It's done some great things to my shoulders, so I'm really happy about that. Really has kept the tattoos pretty consistent, but made me overall a lot more muscular than I already am. So I'm not really unhappy. It's leaned me out a little bit. So it's a very nice photo of me. Gemini, much more close to realistic. The eyes are definitely the same color. The green glasses have stayed intact, and it's kept the tattoos pretty much almost exactly what they should be, but hasn't done as much of a leaning out job of me. Though the smiling lightly looks a little bit smug over here, and it's taken my glasses off. The eye color is a little darker than what it is. Eye color is lighter here. And yeah, it just comes down to style. What do you prefer? Now, Gemini also puts these watermarks in here. They can't take those off. So you have to leave them on there. So what I generally do, if I'm picking this up and taking it to maybe something like Canva, let's have a look. Canva, I'll go in and create a social media post of, let's say, an Instagram 4 to 5. I'm going to whack it in here. And what I'll generally do is expand it so that that comes out of there. There you go. And then I don't have to worry about that. And then I can do things like, remove the background, put a different background behind it. Maybe make it I don't know, bright red. And we can do things like that. So same thing, you can pick up this one over here from ChatGPT, do exactly the same thing as what I did here, whack it in there, but you don't get a watermark on it. There's some coded watermark built into it, but it's not quite as obvious as the one that's in the in Google Gemini, which it leaves that little diamond shape. So I can do this one again, remove the background and get the red background. It depends on really what you prefer. I find this guy a little bit not quite me. Like they've changed me somewhat, and I do find that that's what ChatGPT tends to do. So to me, this is a lot more realistic. It looks a lot more like me. It hasn't de-aged me. It's actually given me some spots on my skin though that do not exist. So I don't know what's going on there. I've got very spotty skin, but I can then ask it to do things like clean that up a little bit, and I can do that. Whereas ChatGPT has kind of already done that, and it's very much cleaned out my skin a lot more. Removed some of the bagginess under my eyes, darkened my eyebrows and made them quite a bit bigger than what they naturally are, and made me skinnier. So I think ChatGPT is trying to make friends with me. That's a bit of a difference, I guess, in the creation of that kind of stuff. Operationally, when you're working in Gemini, all your previous chats are down the side, just like they are over here in ChatGPT. So you got down beyond the projects, all your recents. So all there as well. Gemini does exactly the same, lets them all. One thing I will show that I showed everyone on the Claude workshop yesterday is that if you want to set certain rules for how your ChatGPT and your Gemini operate, it's under personalization here in ChatGPT. So you've got a whole lot of base styles and tones, and I've got a big lot of rules that I put in place here, the things they can and can't do, words, use of things like M dashes, all that sort of thing. And it's really got more about me in here, saving memories, reference the browser memories as well. So it remembers who I am across the Atlas browser, which I don't actually use. So I've got lots of different things in there already. So it gets an understanding of who I am. Go to Gemini though. I go into my settings, there's actually no way for you to set that kind of stuff. It's going to pick it up itself. So it doesn't have a style. So what I find in Gemini is that whilst ChatGPT knows all this about me through those settings, it doesn't tend to really use that information very much. So when I go into, wait a second, into back here, in here, not there, here, go into editor, sorry. Close. Keep clicking the wrong bit. Personalization, there we go. So even though I've got all this in here, it doesn't really actually do much with it. Gemini doesn't have that at all. So what I need to generally do is put those rules inside my gems. So if I go inside a gem, say for instance, the one which I use for writing like me, let's go and edit that, have a look. I would write all that into the instructions. So I've got all the instructions of how to do it, but at the end of it, I've got a lot of rules around about, it's a very, very long prompt, this one. I've got a lot of rules around how to and how not to write. So don't use words like these. Don't use nouns like these. Don't use adverbs like these. Don't do these patterns. The robotic rule of three, the kicker transition. Don't do the here's the kicker thing. So I've got lots of use of certain swear words you can use, certain swear words you can't. And I've also loaded up a bunch of previous materials that I have said, these are my best examples of writing that are most like me. Here's the last 2,000 or so LinkedIn posts that you'll get a very good idea of me. And it does pretty well with that. Now, Claude does better. We're not looking at Claude today, but Claude actually does that a lot better. So it's like a lot more reference material you can put in there than this. I can put like 10 files in a project, in a gem in ChatGPT and Gemini. ChatGPT is around about the same. You can't add endless amounts, but Claude allows you to add a lot more. So I find with the added way, I'll show you in Claude where I did it, just for those of you who weren't on yesterday's webinar. In Claude, under my settings, not that one. Can we go away, mate? I don't want you there. I'll go into my settings and it holds a lot more information in my context about who I am and the way I want it to write. And it actually obeys it. It really is very good at obeying it. And if I go into a Claude project, I find that something like the Write Like Me, I've loaded a lot more reference material, as you can see. So I've still got my LinkedIn posts and I've only used 3% of the project capacity. So now, mind you, I'm paying a lot more for Claude than I am for the others, but you still get a lot more of the memory and the context stuff and the instructions in Claude than what you do in either Gemini or ChatGPT. So it depends on what you want to use this for, really. If you're just doing every day, write me an email, help me write this post, then there's not really much difference between ChatGPT and Gemini. I find that the difference is when it comes to the free ones. So if you're using it for free, ChatGPT free does not let you make your own GPTs. Gemini free does let you make your own gems. So you'll get limited use of them, but you could still make some of your own repeatable, reusable gems. You can't do that in ChatGPT and you can't do that in Claude with projects. So you're going to be a little bit more stuck at not being able to make those repeatable things easily in ChatGPT, where you will get those for free with Gemini. Now, there's all sorts of other integrations that Gemini has with the Google set of apps. So you're looking at things like, your docs and sheets and slides, that sort of thing. And then there's another whole lot of stuff which I'll cover in April, which is around Notebook LM, which is an amazing product from Google that ties in very closely to this as well, which is like a great big, I use it as a dumping ground. So everything that I learn, everything that I get, web clippings, everything goes dumped into there, and I can ask questions against it instead of asking questions on general knowledge across the web. So you're asking questions from your own experience, your own collections, your own information, your own learnings, rather than going outside of that. So Notebook LM, that'll come in April once I get it into a bit more of a state where I can show you much more clearly what it does and how you can make use of it. But for now, I just find Gemini is just that bit more useful than ChatGPT. ChatGPT does do a lot of things. It doesn't necessarily, it's like the Swiss Army knife. It does a little bit of everything, but doesn't do particularly anything well. If you really want a big knife, you're going to go to something like Claude to cut through code and make really good, instructions and very long context with lots of inputs. Gemini you'll use if you want to quickly get things that are very, very good with the current context of what's on the web. So it's part of Google, right? So you're absolutely going to get the latest information from the web that it can find. ChatGPT tends to be a little slower on getting that stuff. A lot of the stuff I get is old information. Gemini, very good for up to date. Claude for very, very serious usage of things and getting things done properly and accurately. Gemini doesn't always get it right, but it does certainly give you a lot more up-to-date answers. ChatGPT, well, it can get things right and get things wrong. It can hallucinate all over the place, but it is the one we're all really most comfortable with and have been using pretty much since day one. So what would I use if I was starting out today? I'd probably start with Gemini, to be honest. Claude for me is a bit more an advanced user's tool, not because it's complicated. It's not really. It's a very good writer. Just straight out of the box, it writes really good stuff because it knows the context of you very well, not just from memories of chatting with ChatGPT like it does. it goes out and finds out about you. Once you tell it who you are, it goes and finds information about you. It goes and works out what it is you do. Gemini, a little bit more that you need to tell it more about who you are through your gems. So through your gems, you don't really get the chance to tell it what to do. Scheduled actions is a nice little tool. So the reminders, that's a good little thing to be separated through there. But otherwise, your gems are excellent. They give you lots of context and you get to do those for free. You don't have to pay to upgrade to the pro version of Gemini to do it. So if I was starting out today, Gemini is definitely where I'd start, simply because out of the box, it just does more. Just be aware that when you start it for the first time, if it's free, it'll always be on fast. You can use the pro version, but you only get very limited use of it, as well as the thinking. But the fast does really well. It's a very powerful tool, much the same as GPT. It doesn't really tell you what it's kind of using. You can change it up here, but the reality is you're probably getting about 5.3, the instant answers right away, on most of your inquiries. When you go to like a lot more research stuff and a lot of deeper stuff, you're using Pro, and you will run out of Pro very quickly on ChatGPT, a lot quicker than what you will with Pro versions on Google Gemini as well. For me, Gemini for the win, but it's up to you about what you use and how you feel about how you use it. And what you might be very invested in here. You've got lots of stuff already in there. I know that Claude has got an import tool that allows you to migrate your ChatGPT memory over into Claude. Gemini doesn't have that, but it doesn't take you long to be able to get that through. So I like Gemini. I use it probably as much as I use Claude. ChatGPT, I use maybe once a day. Gemini, 3 to 4 times a day. Claude, pretty much in it all day long. So you choose what you think is going to be the best tool for you, and just play with the free version. See what you like, see how it feels, and then go with how you think it feels and fits with your particular workflow.